Yes, one of I believe SoCal's finest.
SoCal's finest. Hello, everybody. We're going to do the second part of this debate. So we've got Alejandro and we've got Logan. Alejandro is taking the theist position. Logan is the atheist position. So we're just going to kind of pick up where we left off. We were kind of going to try to format it because we want to get, again, treated with opening statements,
Sure,
rebuttal, and these in the same format. We'll go into
sure.
an open discussion and
Mhm.
then Q&A and then closing. So, anyways, who wants to go first for the opening statement?
All right. Well, I went first last time, so Logan, you want to take a crack at this?
Sure. Alrighty. So I went back and listened to the entire discussion and noted many issues. One, I never claimed there were logical abductive arguments for God. I said some theists confuse abductive with deductive. I also said abductive is the form most theists attempt to use. I never claimed they were successful. Alejandro said he was fine with me defining the terms, then tosses them out for his own preferred usage, which essentially boils down to whatever he thinks is logical is. However, this allows bad arguments to be called logical. My clarifications did not allow for that. In essence, Alejandro challenged me to a duel and allowed me to choose the weapons. I chose guns and he only brought a knife and wishes to call it a gun. As the OED states, logical is following or being able to follow the rules of logic in which ideas or facts are based on other true ideas or facts. Alejandro has not only failed to follow the rules of logic, he denies them. And before we even get to logic, he needs to present true ideas and facts. True is what corresponds to reality. If I had known Alejandro would resort to counting bad, that is, not logical arguments, as defending his position, I never would have agreed to the topic. However, Alejandro did admit we know what the arguments are. This concedes my side of the debate. In deductive form, logical arguments involve soundness, cogency, and/or candidate explanations. We all know what the arguments are for God are, per Alejandro. No theist has ever offered an argument for God that is sound, cogent, or involves a candidate explanation. Therefore, there are no logical arguments for God. We should each try to stop saying what the other person is arguing. I noticed me doing that myself early on, and perhaps we should frame it as, it appears to me that you are X. I do that later to my credit. However, I apologize for the prior instance. Does Alejandro mean it appears to him that way, or does he intend to tell us what we are arguing in actuality? Someone commented Alejandro was baiting me. He stated I could ask him on air if he was, and what he thinks that accomplishes. Consider yourself asked. Alejandro needs to explain what he means by arguments existing. Is he making an ontological claim and that arguments have some sort of existence outside of any mind? Or does he merely mean they exist in the same way fictional stories exist? His first attempt at argumentation was Pascal's wager. This is an argument for the Christian God, not the God Alejandro claims. Liz Jackson, assistant professor of the Department of Philosophy at Toronto Metropolitan University, in her paper, Salvaging Pascal's Wager, uses a probability matrix to conclude Christianity is the safest bet against not only atheism, but other religious worldviews. Alejandro should be a Christian if he claims being safe is logical. Else he needs to explain what would occur if he maintains his current beliefs and dies, but Christianity is true, versus dying as a Christian and Zoroastrianism is true. Additionally, he needs to explain how it is, in fact, logical to be safe than sorry. If a man is accused of committing a heinous act yet can't be convicted, should we kill him anyway in order to be safe than sorry he will commit the act again? Should we kill an entire town that is infected with a deadly disease, murdering those not infected just to get the majority? He needs to explain how safe actually translates into logical under the criteria he accepted that was presented by me. He claims we need to work on a definition of God. This isn't presenting a logical argument. He is instead trying to attempt to define God into existence. Why are we defining God as the greatest? Greatness does not exist. It's a concept within human minds. To measure, you have to have an objective quality. Alejandro equivocates on the meaning of great. Great is akin to beautiful, not numbers. An ugly baby is beautiful to its mother, but not in fact. No one is beautiful in fact. He actually uses measurement for his argument and then disputes it as a tool. Great at everything, great at one thing, great at a few things. What is a great being? He disputes taxonomy, claiming it was arbitrary, yet greatness isn't. He needs to be aware that science is an evolving discipline that self-corrects, and it has done so within the field of taxonomy. We now have DNA analysis, and DNA, despite appearances, tells us the rock hyrax, a small rabbit-like animal, is the closest living relative of the elephant. So much for taxonomy being arbitrary anymore. As Alejandro said, we all know the arguments, and we should all know they aren't logical. We will observe this as he attempts to define God into existence using Anselm's greater than that which can be conceived argument, which was dismissed in its time and is still dismissed today as not logical.
All right, Alejandro, you're up.
All right. Well, I counted, and I should have taken a notepad, 3 main things. And the first one is that we don't have a definition of God. Okay, Logan has disputed it. And the problem is that he can't argue that there is no definition, there's no argument for God if there's no definition of God. That makes no sense, which is something I covered in last episode, for lack of a better word. Okay, he's saying like, well, we don't know what a gimp is. I don't know. Well, what's a made up word? Someone give me a made up
Um,
Scott.
I'm trying to
made-up
think
word.
of something.
Yeah.
A Zabita.
There you go.
Zabita?
Yeah. So he's saying we know there's no good argument that Zabitas exist, and I have no idea what a Zabita is. There's no evidence that a Zabita exists. I have no idea what a Zabita is. So without him offering a definition of God, everything else he says just explodes. Okay, that's where we were at the end of the last debate. The second thing was Pascal's wager. Okay, and this is where he redefined what it is to be safe. And the safe, of course, is he's just defining his way out of the problem. Let's see, there was a third thing, which I think I forget right now. Those are the main 2. So, without a definition, we're kind of dead in the water. Do you want to go ahead and tell us what the definition of God is?
Logan? All right, so we'll go ahead and move into the rebuttal. So, did you want to rebut what Alejandro's statement was at this point, and then we'll let Alejandro do a rebuttal?
Well, there wasn't much that he gave to rebut. I did type as he was talking. I didn't say that we don't have definitions of God or gods.
Mm-hmm.
I said we can't define something into existence. I can define Gandalf. That doesn't mean he exists.
Right.
You said something about me changing the word of safe. Go ahead and tell me what's safe.
Well, we would assume that safe would be like least dangerous, or something like that. It's a very simple word. But when you're arguing, you basically argued Pascal's wager, and you basically just disputed what it means to be safe. So, well, we really don't know what it means to be safe. And if we don't agree on that definition, we're in the same place we are with the arguments of the existence of God. If there is no definitions, you can't argue one way or the other, in which case it is just a matter of belief, and it's just subjective, and well, you believe what I believe. The problem there, of course, is that you're saying I'm wrong. And if you're saying I'm wrong, then it is objective. So.
Okay. So what occurs in Zoroastrianism, if it's true, but I'm a Christian and I die, what occurs in Zoroastrianism? Christianity was false.
Right, you cross the chin bitch. It doesn't matter. The thing is, Zoroastrian is not an exclusive religion. So we're not super concerned with what you believe as much as we are with what you do. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat there. So if you're saying, I think communism is awesome, and you're going around spending your life as a good person, but you also spend your life, promoting communism, which resulted in, roughly 100 million people dead, that's going to be awkward. And that's the problem with a lot of atheists and a lot of people who have bad beliefs, is these bad beliefs result in bad actions. But to answer your question, if someone is a good Christian, someone is acting like Christ their whole life, they shouldn't have any problems crossing the Chin Bad Bridge.
Okay, that's exactly what I thought, but I wanted to make sure that you
Sure.
stated that. So, if fundamentalist Christianity is true,
Mhm.
fundamentalism states you're going to hell, I'm going to hell, Scott's probably going to hell.
Mhm.
If that is true, and you die, what happens?
Well, the problem there, that was the third point I remember. The problem there is we've covered this extensively online. For you to argue one version of theism is true is for you to admit theism. As an atheist, you have to argue that
No,
all
Alejandro.
versions of theism are false.
No, Alejandro. We are speaking. We are speculating.
Right.
We are speculating these possible worlds. Remember, possible worlds is not a multiverse. It's just a concept.
Okay.
So we are speculating a world where Orthodox Christianity is true.
Right.
He who does not come to me does not get to the Father, will not see glory in heaven. So that you're agreeing to all that, and then you're saying, "Well, no, I'm misrepresenting."
Well, I can deal with this on a number of different levels, Logan.
Well, I want you to just answer what happens to you if Christianity is true, because here is Christ is the only way to salvation. There is no way around it. This is from a Christian website. There's only one way. Jesus could not make it clear. Jesus told him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." That's why they go out and convert people, because they want people to, they think if they do not, you don't go to heaven. So what happens? What happens? You get it all. So what happens to you if that Christianity right there is true?
Well, Logan, you're not a Christian. So you tried to have this debate last year, and you're trying to last game session. And you're doing it again this session.
Okay,
it's not going to do you any good.
You're doing your little game where you think everything goes according to your plan.
Yeah, it does.
Right? You got your little plan. Your plan is making yourself look like a fool. Okay, if that's your goal, you're succeeding because you're not answering your question. You're playing these little games. It's what happens in Zoroastrianism. You go this, and this, which is exactly what I predicted. And then when I go to Christianity, you can't answer straight because you know.
So let me intervene. So can you steel man Logan's position at this point?
Well, the problem is that I know where this is going. He's trying to argue against Pascal's wager, and the problem there is that atheists lose no matter what. Statistically and mathematically, we're arguing basically a certainty of being wrong versus a chance of being right. And we've had this conversation many, many times online. He wants to argue, he wants to suddenly become a Christian. We know he's not a Christian. And for him to do that admits that one God is possible. Okay.
So I think Logan is doing an internal critique of theism in general. So he's accepting the theistic worldview, but he's just doing an internal critique to do an outsider test of faith within theism itself. So we know that there's different religions among theism. Theism isn't the religion, it's the platform, so to speak. So can you play along with his could you play along with his thought experiment? We all know he's an atheist, but he's doing an internal critique.
Right. So we've been through this online. What happens is Logan burns no matter what. Okay.
Okay, let's watch him burn. That's what we want to see.
That's the problem. He burns no matter what. The other problem is that
let's do it.
We know this. We don't have to go through this.
I'm talking about Alejandro, though. I'm talking about Alejandro. Does Alejandro burn on Christianity?
What?
You just said I burn no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, you do.
Which isn't exactly true. There are universal salvations.
Yeah.
So on the Christianity that William Lane Craig endorses, on his website you can go find an article. You're going to hell. I'm going to hell. Scott's going to hell. No offense, Scott. So on that, very easy question, Alejandro. Are you going to hell? If Christianity
you're asking me
is true?
A question we both know the answer to. And how is this helping your argument? You don't know that.
Oh, really?
You don't know
Okay.
Christian theology? You're quoting it to me, and
Oh,
you're
I
telling me you
don't.
don't know it.
I do know it.
Okay,
Okay.
so you're
For one
asking me a
thing,
question
Alejandro, I
we
was
both know
raised
the answer
Protestant.
to.
I was
Right,
Protestant, right? You were
right,
Catholic, correct? Okay.
well,
So there's a little disparity there in our
right,
understandings of Christianity, but I'm
right,
doing fundamentalist Christianity. I'm doing
right,
conservative, Baptist.
right.
Okay. So you're either arguing that Baptists are wrong
Uh-huh.
or you're going to hell.
Okay.
But see, you can't. You try to utilize Pascal's wager, but you can't even factor into it anytime it contradicts your little master plan of debating. You
No,
can't
I've
have an
explained this.
honest discussion. You can't have an honest discussion,
Mm.
Alejandro.
I've
So
explained this.
just be honest with me. Under the Christianity that says anyone who is not a follower of Jesus, that believes Jesus died for the sins, that prays to him for salvation, that Jesus has cleansed them of their sins, under that Christianity,
Mm-hmm,
which is what this professor that I cited
mm-hmm,
endorses.
mm-hmm.
Under that Christianity, if nothing happens
Right.
under Zoroastrianism, if you're a Christian, then it's safer for you to be a Christian, because if Christianity is true, you're going to heaven. If Zoroastrianism is true, you're still going to heaven. So for you to say it's logical to be safe and sorry and not be a Christian shows the disingenuousness of your position.
No. Okay. I've explained this like several times to you. Number one, we both
Because
know
you're wrong,
Pascal's.
Alejandro. You're wrong, and you don't answer
Okay.
questions. That's your issue. And you sit here
Okay.
and think this is your master plan, and
Right.
people, just even theists, say, "Wow, what a moron." So please,
Okay.
just
Go ahead, Alejandro. Go ahead and
Okay.
answer.
All right. So first of all, we are talking. Pascal's wager applies in a situation where we are now, where we don't have a definition of God. We don't have any arguments for God. We just have this idea of God. Just this absolutely vague, vague, vague idea of God, which is where we are now with no definition of God. Okay, so the question is it better to be safe than sorry? It's like, yeah, I believe in God. Now, when Logan starts introducing ideas like, well, we believe Zoroastrianism, well, we believe Protestantism, well, we believe Catholicism, etc., 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 now he's arguing a version. So he's saying, okay, well, I think the Christians have a better idea than the Zoroastrians. Okay, well, I think the Catholics have a better idea than the Protestants. Well, I like the Protestants better. He's making those arguments and he's admitting them. He's presupposing them. It's one of those. It's so that's where logic just flies out the windows. And I've had this conversation with him before. He knows all this. So if you want to say, okay, I'm not going to give you a definition of God, I'm going to reject every definition God you give me, but I think the Catholics, boom, I think they have a better idea. Well, you're admitting Catholic arguments. If you want to play that game, we can play that game, but
you're
even
not
then
playing
he
at all,
still loses.
Alejandro. You're not playing at all. I've asked you a direct
Are we gonna?
question, and I've asked you a
Because
direct
you asked
question.
it,
You continually
yeah, and you
refuse to
know the
answer it.
answer.
Well,
Because
it
you don't
doesn't
know the
matter,
answer.
Alejandro. This is for the audience. There might be somebody in the audience that doesn't know him in. Oh, look, somebody said I boxed you in. Oh, there you go. So sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So I think last week, Alejandro went ahead and suggested a definition of God
Right.
being the greatest thing that could exist, or the greatest
Right.
object, or the
That than
universal
which
set,
nothing.
something like that.
Right.
So something that is greater than any singular thing or sets of things that exist is God. So and then we started talking about the definition of greatness, because it seems like greatness is a value, and values are
Is
definitionally
that on my end or your end?
subjective. I
I'm
don't
sorry,
know.
Scott. You're
I hear
breaking up
wind.
for me.
Gotcha.
Scott,
Can you?
we're all
Yeah. Can
freezing.
you hear me? Yeah, you're freezing too. Hmm. Try to go out and come back in, maybe.
We lost one bar. Hello, you back?
That's what you get for living in Southern
Yeah,
California.
yeah.
Oh, sorry about
But
that. That was weird.
yeah, no problem. So basically, is greatness objective or subjective? Since God is great, is the definition of greatness, because that would make
Right.
God subjective rather than objective, right?
Well, if we're going to argue that God is subjective, um, then you're arguing that he's not. Then you will go back to beliefs. Okay, and the
Right, but
problem there. Okay,
you're
there's
arguing
two
God is
arguments. Whoa,
subjective.
whoa. Yes, I am. Now,
Okay,
if
okay.
you want to say God is not objective, you want to say, God is an idea, God is imaginary, then we're dealing with a completely different argument. So I want to make sure that we're having the same conversation. Now, if we want to
Mm-hmm.
switch to saying, okay, God is subjective, great is subjective, there's no objective way to define God. Okay, the problem there is you're saying I'm wrong. That's where that goes.
Right. Well, I guess I'm not really going that far down the road. I guess what I'm
Okay.
just trying to establish as the moderator is,
Okay.
are you saying, not Logan or me or anybody else,
Mhm.
but are you defining God as objective fact or a subjective concept?
Objective, absolutely.
Objective. Okay. So the next question is, so greatness, is that a subjective um is greatness a subjective category or a objective thing, greatness?
Well, if greatness is subjective, like I said last time, then everything is equally great, and that's just not the world we live in. You're going to have to argue that everything is objectively equally great, and that's a really
I don't
bad
know.
position to come from.
I don't know if it necessarily means that everything's equally great, because again, great is subjective.
Right.
So
If you're going to argue
objectively,
that it's
so
subjective, then they're saying everything is equally great.
well, maybe to someone, but maybe not to
Right.
you, or maybe not to me or Logan. That's what I mean.
Right.
So,
Right.
but do you think that greatness means objective? I just want to pin it down just to go forward so I'll get out of here. Okay,
Yep.
cool. All right, go for it, Logan. I just wanted to get those on the table.
Well, I don't think he's furthered anything that he's already said. He is choosing a definition for God. So he is.
Well, there are several definitions of God. I said maximally great, and actually, no, I said that than which nothing greater can be conceived. Scott suggested maximally great. We're starting there, and once again, you're just arguing, oh, the greatness is subjective. All right, so we can say, God is the creator of the cosmos. Boom, there you go. That's a nice definition of God. We can go there.
Okay.
However you want to go. I mean, it's your God,
Okay.
not mine.
So is
Well,
there a
well, that's
logical
the problem.
contradiction?
Scott, if I can say, well, it's
Sure,
not.
go
First of
right
all, it's
ahead.
not my God, but you're going back there to saying there's no definition of God. Okay, if there's no definition of God, then Pascal's wager stands.
No, I'm saying there are multiple definitions of God.
We're going over several of them, and you're saying that greatness is subjective, which is just weird,
It is.
So I said, okay, so we'll just go with,
Okay.
God is the
You
creator of the
agree
cosmos.
you agree greatness is subjective.
No,
Okay.
I haven't agreed. Okay, the problem is that you're going to fight it, and you're going to say stuff like everything, and you have to say everything is equally great, which is absurd, and I'm just willing to let you go with that. You're just going to say everything is equally great.
Do you think I'm fighting it without good reasoning behind it?
Yes.
Can you explain what you think that reason that
Because
bad reasoning is?
I did, because you're saying I'm wrong. As soon as you say I'm wrong, you're saying it's objective. Okay? So if say for example,
no, I'm just because I say a word is subjective, and that's not really me saying it's subjective. It's an adjective. It modifies a noun,
and we went over that last game session.
You have to have criteria, and as I explained last game session, that those criteria can be different things. What makes a great baseball player? Catching, pitching, hitting.
Right, and I went over that as well, is that you don't believe in God, So you don't have any standard upon which to measure something. So God is the
What's
ultimate measure of greatness. So we went over that last game session. Okay, we've got right here, we've got closer to God, further away from God. So, a great thing gets closer to God. A not great thing gets away from God. Okay, so you say there's no God. So this just slides all over the place, and we don't know where it is. Okay, now if you're just going to tell me that, the problem there is you're telling me I'm wrong. If you're telling me
I'm
something
I'm
subjective, you're telling me God
I'm,
is subjective,
I'm
and
saying
then
your argument is not logical, which is the purpose of this debate.
it's not logical to think that greatness is objective, that some things are greater than others.
Yes.
Okay, so you're arguing that everything is equally great.
No, I'm just saying your argument fails.
Okay, for my argument to fail, you would need to say everything is equally great.
No, I don't.
Okay, then God exists.
No, I don't. You haven't demonstrated it.
I haven't demonstrated it.
No,
I just did. If
no,
if
you
things are
didn't.
okay, if
Again, you
greatness
are
is
defining things into existence. You're trying to say God is great, therefore God exists. This is Anselm's ontological argument. I know exactly what this is, Alejandro. As you said, we all know the arguments. This is Anselm. And it has been disputed for centuries, even by fellow theists. Even St. Aquinas disputed this argument. And he's a theist, considered one of the greatest minds of Christian philosophy. So, this isn't something that's hasn't been
okay,
addressed.
so something is greater than everything else.
Something.
Right.
Again, according to what criteria?
Well, again, we are saying that's not
No, you're
leading
saying
anywhere. It's
measure.
everything.
You're saying measure, and you're not giving
Okay.
me the rule. What's the rule?
Okay. Okay. Can we agree that there is something greater than everything else?
No.
Okay, so everything is equally great.
No, your burden is to demonstrate your argument, Alejandro.
Okay, I'm doing that, and you seem to be
Okay.
like everything is equally great and not equally great.
I didn't say that.
You
You
don't have to say it. You're
you have
arguing
to
both
show
ways.
there are multiple rulers, Alejandro. There's
Okay,
hitting,
and no,
there's
you can
hitting,
use
there's
rules,
catching, there's pitching.
right? And we went over
What
this
is?
last game session. Okay,
And you
you're
failed.
saying that you're saying that what is great what is objective can be measured. That's your argument.
No, I did not say that.
You don't have to say these things.
I'm saying greatness is not
Okay,
objective.
look, if you're arguing that it's not objective, that means it's subjective. If you're arguing it's not subjective, then it's objective. These are dualities.
Greatness is subjective.
If
Yes.
okay, so greatness is subjective.
But you can select certain criteria to measure greatness within that criteria. However, that does not make them great at all things in this abstract concept. You need to select a criteria that God is great at. So what is God great at that you are going to call him the greatest being? You are trying to make being, existence, into a quality. We all have that. So therefore I'm great because I exist.
You have a matter of greatness. Yes, that's true. Okay, so that brings us to sorry, the screen's jumping around. It's interesting to me. Scott, that's awesome. Okay, so now I'm just trying to find out what's funny. You're being weird. Eric.
Who, me?
Okay, so well, you. Okay,
Oh,
so if we want to be
I'm laughing at the chat. I'm laughing at Scott doing all the little things.
Okay. All right. Well, God is great at creating everything. So there you go.
Is he great at being an asshole?
I'm sure if he wanted to be an asshole, he would be a great asshole.
So he would be, is he omnibenevolent?
He's omnibenevolent, yes.
So
all loving, all knowing.
Whoa.
He cannot be a greatest asshole and be omnibenevolent. So you therefore contradicted yourself.
No, I said if he wanted to be an
asshole.
No,
God
said if he wanted to be.
So you're saying God can change his character?
Okay, what I said is if God wanted to be an asshole, he would be really good at it. I didn't say he was.
And you think someone that is omnibenevolent could want to be an asshole, let alone be one?
Uh, Again, this is a problem of the perceiver, not the perceived. So, for example, I'm pretty sure there are people who think he's an asshole. Okay, there are
Yeah.
people who believe it. You are one of them. Okay.
Well, it depends on the God.
Okay. Now again, you're trying to play that game. You can't. Okay. Scott, you're an atheist. Scott, Logan is an atheist. He has to argue that there are no gods. He can't suddenly like pick and choose. Well, I like Marduk. Okay, or you know what?
Well,
I
let's
like the
pick.
Christian God.
Oh, Alejandro, all we have to do is go with your definition of God, which is Zoroastrianism. I think. I don't know because I'm not that familiar with Zoroastrianism. But
Mhm.
see, God is used to represent multiple conceived beings. There's the Christian God, who, if I read the Old Testament, I'm saying, yeah, that God's a jerk. The Zoroastrian God, the only thing I would be calling him a jerk is, well, explain to me what you believe is going to happen to me when I die, if I maintain my current state of belief.
Logan. Okay, so you're not an atheist anymore. Now, the thing is, if you're trying to find the proper conception of God, is a very
Alejandro,
different question.
do you know how that are you trying to bait me? You never answered that
No, I'm
question.
trying to. No, I'm not trying to
You're,
bait you. I'm
were
trying
you
to
trying to
explain.
bait me in the last debate? Were you
No,
trying to
I
bait me
wasn't.
in? Oh, okay, good.
No,
A
I'm
lot of people
pointing out
thought you
that
were.
you jump. That's fine. A lot of people think God's an asshole. People can be wrong.
Yes, even you.
It's
Um,
possible.
Good. Um, so I just want to know because I mean I could answer, but since you are the Zoroastrian expert here, I would like you to answer it. If you aren't here, I would tell people, I would say, well, this is my impression. It could be wrong. So
Hmm.
if I don't believe in God, and
Right?
I mean, I don't know, you know much about my personal life, but however, have already stated that
Atheists are.
atheists serve the what? Angry Manu?
Yeah, they do.
So what happens to me when I die? Serving the angry
You would
Manu.
have a very narrow, very shaky Shinvad bridge.
What if I fall off?
That's unfortunate for you.
What happens?
You go to the house of lies. The worst
Which is
existence.
the worst.
The Drush Demana.
Okay. Thank you for answering. So, is a
See, the thing
God.
is right now, Logan, is that you're trying to dispute different versions of God. And we've covered before, this is something you can't do as an atheist. You have to argue that every single possible conception of God is wrong. Every single one. Because as soon as you say, okay, well, which one? Well, you have to admit that they're real. Okay, that's like saying, what color is a unicorn? This is my standard argument. I went over it for weeks. Okay, someone says, what color is a unicorn? Well, then either the question has no truth value. Okay, if unicorns don't exist, then you know what? There's no truth value. Someone could say they're black, someone could say they're white, someone could say they're polka dotted. You know what? All of them have the same exact truth value. On the other hand, if you start saying, no, I don't believe you were wrong, then you're saying they exist. You're saying that one answer is correct, and you've admitted theism before you ask that question. Inherent to asking that question. So when you're asking about Zoroastrianism, you're basically admitting theism. I've been over this with you. I went over for a few weeks.
That is hilarious, Alejandro, that you believe that. Okay. That is some very faulty reasoning that just because someone asks questions about something, they're assuming it exists.
Okay. No, I said
wow,
when you
that's
start saying people are wrong.
he's the greatest wizard. Which one? Well, you're accepting that wizards exist now. No, just which wizard you're talking about. You see how that works, Alejandro? You're saying that anybody that asks who is the best character in fiction, who is the best hobbit, you're saying they admit hobbits exist. That's ridiculous, Alejandro.
There's an
That is
objective
ridiculous,
answer.
and I just demonstrated it.
There's an objective answer. Is there?
There is an objective answer.
Okay.
No, there's not. No, there's not.
Oh, there's not an objective answer. Oh, it's just an opinion.
Well,
So we're
yes,
just having an opinion.
you are. Yes, I think you're expressing your opinion that you think Ahura Mazda is the greatest god. I don't know why, because to me, um, for something,
Are we back yet?
we've never left.
Are we
But
back yet?
We're on.
are you making a joke or are you saying you lost us? I guess he lost us because
Hello?
I think he might.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we hear you. You're not moving though.
We hear you. Yeah, he's frozen.
That's what you get for living in Southern California.
There we go.
You get all that good weather, but you get horrible service.
Starlink. Maybe he'll jump back in. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird.
I guess I don't know how to move on because he keeps telling me what I'm saying and that I actually believe in God if I do that. And
All right, he's back.
There we go. All right. So where we are is you're arguing that God does not exist objectively. That's for sure.
I'm waiting for your argument, and I'm just. Do you wish? How about this, Alejandro?
Okay.
How long would it take you to actually present this, what you consider a logical argument?
Well, we're getting
In
there.
its
But you've
form.
argued there's no definition.
No, I just
So
asked you a question. If I don't
Okay.
interrupt you, you just went just like I did with my syllogism in my opening. If you go from point A to point Z or whatever, how many points you need?
Okay.
How long would
I
that
don't know.
take?
A few minutes.
Okay, I'll just shut up.
Okay. We'll start off with God created the cosmos. So we know he's maximally great. Okay. So life exists, therefore design, therefore self-awareness. Good conquers evil, therefore God is good. That's it.
Okay, well, there was not a single thing that I need to refute because that is just Alejandro defining God into existence.
Okay, so you want to tell me where the cosmos came from? I gave you like a whole 2 days head start on this. I hope you have something good.
2 days head start.
Yeah, it was a whole little thing I did on Facebook about the existence of God. Where did cosmos come from? You were on that thread.
Well, no, you just said. Is that the one where you said atheism doesn't answer
Atheism doesn't
anything?
answer any questions.
Okay. What about cosmology?
Okay, so where does the cosmos come from?
I'm just saying, does cosmology try to answer those questions?
It does, but it can't.
Why not?
Well, Logan, you can't add something to everything. Real simple.
Oh. Huh.
So you're
No, I'm just saying you made 4 assertions. You did not present a logical argument. You have had
okay.
2 sessions to present a logical argument, and you have
No,
not
no,
done
no, no,
so.
no. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
That
whoa.
was
No,
that was
no,
simply
that was
horrible.
no.
That
That
was horrible. Of any theistic attempt at logic, that was flat out horrible, Alejandro.
well,
There's
Logan.
nothing even to decipher there and show you how you're wrong beyond the fact that they're assertions. Well, God is
Logan.
good, therefore he exists. God
Logan.
created the universe, therefore he exists. Those are assertions. What is your epistemology?
Okay. Now, first of all, the comment was that there are no logical arguments for the existence of God, and you don't have a definition of God. So that's where you lost. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to create out of that, but if there is no definition of God, you can't argue that I've never seen any evidence for it, and there are no logical arguments for God if there is no definition. And you consistently argue there is no definition. You consistently argue against any definition.
I already
So
demonstrated that
that's
your God concept is incoherent. So therefore,
no,
there
you
are no
didn't.
logical arguments for incoherent things.
Okay, no, you didn't. You dispute. You argue that
God cannot
greatness
be
was
both
subjective.
omnibenevolent and be an asshole. Cannot be.
No, I explained that. I explained that to you, Logan. I explained that
Badly.
some people can see him as an asshole.
But then
Some people
that
can
wouldn't.
perceive.
But if I can jump in, to be
Sure.
fair to Logan,
Okay.
he wasn't addressing people's perceptions. He was addressing the idea of God himself being an
Right.
asshole.
And I said very specifically, if God wanted to be an asshole, he would be great. I didn't say he was. I said if he wanted to. And that's one
Hmm.
thing about God. He chooses not to be an asshole. That
So he
doesn't
could
mean
be.
people don't, yes. That doesn't mean people don't perceive
Mm,
him that way. Logan is one of them, you know.
So he could
So
stop being omnibenevolent.
he could, but he won't.
That's a contradiction. God either is or he is not, according to most theologians. Or a thing has to be.
A is A.
Yeah, he either is omnibenevolent, which means all good, or he is not omnibenevolent. So at the point, according to you, when he becomes an asshole and is no longer omnibenevolent, he is therefore no longer God.
Logan, what part of he can choose did you not get? You see, you have this thing which is a subsequent product of being an atheist that everyone has to be everything they can be. There's no discretion. If you can do something, you do that thing. If you didn't do that thing, that means you couldn't have done that thing. You're basically presupposing determinism, which is presupposing atheism or maltheism.
Alejandro, I'm just dealing with your arguments. You don't need to worry about my
Mm,
position.
No, your position comes from being an atheist. They're
It
tied
doesn't.
together.
Even though there are theists that disagree with your reasoning, where does their position that agrees with
No,
mine
you're
come from?
disagreeing with my definitions. We haven't even got to reasoning yet. And you're just going
Wait
to
a minute. You
continue
were
to
supposed
argue
to
that there
present
is
your
no
logical
definition.
argument. You were supposed to, I gave you as much time as you wanted to present your logical argument. You went, God created the cosmos. No evidence for that. God is good. No relationship to anything. God is maximally great. And therefore God exists. That isn't even a valid argument.
Let me ask you guys, both of you guys, a question.
Okay.
Can an omnibenevolent God choose to be evil? Like, is choosing to be evil evil? Is it
Sorry,
evil to choose
I don't
evil?
have a very good. You got to hold on. We'll get a good signal for you. For me,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Question: is choosing to be evil an evil thing to do?
God is not evil.
Okay,
That's
I
the
understand that,
Angermanu.
but the question is if I was to choose to be evil, or if anybody was to choose to be evil, like God, is that an evil thing to
Sorry, we're
choose
gonna
to
have to
be
wait till we have
evil?
a better signal. I apologize to our audience, but you know, technology is the way it is.
Okay, I can wait. Maybe you can
Okay.
sign back
Okay,
in.
you're
It'll
back.
help.
You're
Okay,
back.
cool.
We're all back.
Cool.
All right.
So is choosing to be evil is that an evil thing to do?
Well, that's challenging the definition of God, and that's getting into maltheism, which is a lot of what Logan is arguing.
So what is the
Um,
answer? Yes or no, in your opinion? No?
okay, so my understanding, God, my understanding of your question, being a Zoroastrian, God is not evil. Okay,
Right.
people can choose to step away from God, and that is the Anger Manu. People can choose to reject God. People can choose to be irrational. People can choose to, be horrible people and see things in the worst possible light. They can choose that, and in doing so, they serve the Anger Manu.
Hmm. So your answer is yes, that if God chose to be evil, that would
I'm
be
really not sure
evil.
of your question. If
It's a
something
very
chooses
simple
to be evil,
question.
okay, what
That
was
be
that?
evil? If
I'm sorry.
someone
Could you repeat
chooses,
the question? If someone chooses
if
to be
some
evil,
is that evil in itself?
yeah, if someone chooses to be evil, then they're evil. That's
Okay.
very
What do you think,
Zoroastrian.
Logan? What is your answer, Logan?
Well, yeah, by definition, it would be evil.
Okay.
Okay.
So back to your discussion, we're talking
Okay.
about can an omnibenevolent God choose to be evil was the question Logan asked you. And so you said Yes, he could.
but he does
So
not.
would that? But he doesn't. So
Right?
would he ever choose to be evil ever?
No,
In your opinion, no.
no.
Okay. Okay.
That's
So
part of
that
being
answers that
maximally
question.
great,
Okay.
which Logan has a problem with.
Okay. Okay. So carry on, Logan, with your argument.
Um,
I think it was
well,
something to the point of um I think you were I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think I know what you were going to say, but you go ahead. I'll let you.
I don't remember.
Okay. All right.
um,
Well, forget I even did all that. I
Okay.
was trying
Well,
to create some
so,
common ground that we could build
Alejandro,
on.
do you accept that there are synthetic and analytic truths?
okay. No, I don't. I think synthetic and analytic is the product of someone who thinks concretely. This is the philosophy of someone with a concrete operational thinking. Our favorite friend, Alex Gibb, is very famous for believing in that distinction, and I don't. For example, it's for example there, is the distinction between analytic and synthetic itself analytic or syncretic. Okay, so it's the philosophy of people who are either trapped at concrete operational thinking or who are autistic. You know.
Hmm. So you would disagree that there are propositions that are true in virtue of meaning alone versus those that are
Wait, could you
true
say that
both in what
again?
they. Okay, sorry. um, would you disagree that there are propositions that are true in virtue of meaning alone versus there are propositions that are true because of both of what they mean and because of the way the world is?
Have you seen every instance of 1 plus 1?
That wasn't my question, Alejandro.
That's my answer. That's a
Okay,
non-literal answer.
okay,
Okay.
we'll leave it at that. I think that demonstrates loads. Um, so you didn't even make an attempt at forming your argument in proper form,
Right.
such as answer. Okay, you admit that. Good. So therefore, since you have not presented it in proper form, you have not presented a logical argument. You just admitted that.
Okay. You want to go into the details. I'm trying to make this
Of
for
course.
philosophy nerds. Okay. So we know the cosmos exists. Are you going to argue the cosmos does not exist?
What is the cosmos?
Everything, matter and
Everything.
motion, everything
It's
that isn't
everything.
God. Okay. So
Everything that isn't God. Okay, let me write
well,
that
no,
down.
I can't actually say that because you can always argue pantheism, which would make it God. So
I
I'll just
I
say,
want
all matter and
well
energy. There you go. All matter and energy. There you go. That's the
I
cosmos.
want you. I would request that you argue what you believe, not what you think would win you the debate, if that's what you're trying to get to.
Well, I'm trying to
So cosmos
articulate this too.
is matter
Matter
and
and
energy.
motion. Matter and energy, yes.
Matter and energy. And motion?
Motion, energy.
Okay. All right. So
What? You want to argue it doesn't exist?
no, it exists. Yeah, sure.
Good. Okay, good. Then we're not. Then we've ruled out nihilism. Okay.
I don't know if we have or
So,
not. I'm not an expert in
okay,
nihilism.
it's very simple. You deny
You
the
rolled out
cosmos exists.
solipsism.
Well, no, we haven't ruled out solipsism because
Hmm.
Logan has issues with what he believes to be true is true,
But
and that's when he.
cosmos is external to the mind.
Yes, and some people can't distinguish between what's external to the mind and what's internal to the mind. That's
Yeah, but
solipsism.
by definition, if he's agreeing that an outside external world exists, then he's by definition not a solipsist, right?
No, the difference is that a solipsist doesn't know where their mind stops and where reality starts. For lack of better, to use simple terms, that's a solipsist. So, for example, many of the typical atheists say, I ask the question, either God exists or God does not exist, and they'll say, "Well, I don't believe in God." That's an example of solipsism. That's when they're trying to put their beliefs as reality. There's no distinction for them between the question of whether God exists or not and what they believe on the subject. So their beliefs on the topic are just as real as the table I'm sitting at.
The belief that God exists, that
Mhm.
belief, is it real?
The belief, people
The
believe and
belief in
people don't
God.
believe.
But I
Absolutely.
mean, in the same way, if you believe in God,
Right?
are you a solipsist?
No, because I know God exists and I know where my thoughts stop and where reality starts.
Okay, go ahead,
I'm
Logan.
very
Seems like he's got you pinned as a solipsist, and I think he's made his case. I don't know how you're gonna get out of that one.
Oh boy, I'm scared. It doesn't matter what I am. I'm just trying to get his logical argument. So I mean, see, that's the thing, Alejandro. You distract from the argument, whether intentionally or unintentionally, as it appears to me, by going on these tangents that are totally unnecessary to presenting a logical argument. Whether I'm a solipsist or a nihilist or anything, um, does not affect the fact of whether or not you can present a logical argument.
well.
Because
No,
even
that's
even solipsists can know logic. Even nihilists can know logic.
well, that's part of this. You see, the thing is, I'm showing over the course of these game sessions that you yourself are irrational, and
Oh,
so whatever comes out of your mouth and whatever comes out,
oh,
whatever you say, isn't rational. So there's
oh,
several
okay.
layers of the debate going on. So, for example, when we started off, and you say there are no good arguments for the existence of God, there are no whatever, however you want to say it, I was
Yeah.
showing that you're saying that, but you don't even have a definition. So you're just kind of just you believe things that can't be true. And so you can say these things, and everything that
Didn't
comes out of your mouth gets poisoned by it.
didn't we agree to go with the classical definition of God?
Yeah, and then you start arguing that
So
their great is subjective and great is not subjective, and that I'm
yes,
wrong.
yes, because
You just get all
okay,
over the place.
so we've accepted the classical definition of God, and you keep saying that I'm okay. So that would qualify me saying there are no logical arguments for the classical definition of God. So go with that.
Okay. All right. So there are no arguments, and you know that because you're arguing there's no definition of God. Is
I'm
that what
knowing
you're
that
arguing?
because I'm knowing that because you stated we all know the arguments.
All right. Okay. So
So you
we
you
know the arguments.
conceded that I know all the arguments.
Right. You know the
Okay,
arguments,
good.
but
Okay,
we
so
right.
I know all the arguments.
Right.
Therefore, there are no logical arguments for God.
So you've never
Very good.
heard.
No,
See,
you
we
said
did
I know
this. We
all
did
of
the.
them. No, you admitted and you just did it again that
Okay.
I
So
know
you
all
know
the
all.
arguments. Yes,
So
you
you
admitted that,
know all the.
Alejandro. You said that.
So you know
You
every
just
single
admitted that.
argument.
You
I
just
said it,
you
so it's
just
true.
admitted that.
Yeah, Alejandro,
Well,
you did
I'm
say that a couple times that he knew all the arguments. So
I'm
Okay.
saying you
So
that's what
conceded
he's
that in
talking
this
about.
debate.
that's the semantic thing. That's real mature. Okay. So all right. So you know every single possible, argument for the existence of God that ever was, is, or could be. Great.
For the
You're omniscient.
classical God, yes.
Okay. So you know every single one.
Yes.
This
Every
presented, I guess.
single. Okay. You know every single one. That's great.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
So now, um,
Prove me wrong.
do you know every um, logical argument for God, Alejandro, in
I'm
order
not
to check him?
omniscient. I'm
Okay,
not
see,
omniscient. See, he
okay,
claimed omniscience, and that's great. I mean,
No, I didn't claim omniscience. I'm
you
saying
did.
I've read everything that Tolkien wrote. I'm saying I've read everything that Tolkien wrote.
You said, okay. When I said every argument for the existence of God, I'm like the conventional, and all of a sudden you just like took that and you're like, well, you said it, therefore I am omniscient.
No,
And I'm like, if you're gonna do
no,
that,
no, Alejandro.
thanks for
No,
giving me the debate. Okay, thanks.
no.
I mean,
If
you're just gonna get
there
up there and claim omniscience. That's great, guy. Logan, you're awesome. You're just gonna claim omniscience.
if
Good
there
for you.
are if there are a finite amount of SpongeBob cartoons and I have watched them all, am I claiming omniscience?
You're claiming you know every single possible argument for the existence of God that ever is, was, or could be.
No, I did not say could be.
Oh, so you're not. So okay, all right. So you're not omniscient. Okay,
Never said that.
good.
Now, who's being mature? Who's being mature,
You know what?
Alejandro? Here.
You know what? If you're just gonna like sit there, oh, you said it. You said it. Therefore, it's true. Therefore, it's true. I know all the arguments. I'm like, come on, man.
No,
Come on, man. We're
no,
adults.
you would do the same
Yeah,
thing,
but I mean,
Alejandro.
just to push the conversation on. So, are you either gonna grant what Logan's saying or you're not? If you're not, then
What am I granting at this point?
no, I'm saying like
I
he's
mean,
saying he's omniscient. He's saying he knows every argument for the existence of God. He knows all the logical arguments presented, I guess. Are
no,
you
he
going to
didn't.
grant him that, or are you just going to laugh at him and say he's
If he
obviously
knows, if he
lying?
wants to know the classical arguments, then yeah, we both know the classical arguments.
Okay,
Okay.
can we start
Now, but he
there?
didn't qualify that. All right, so he knows the classical arguments. That's a
So
great place to
You
start.
right,
did,
so now it's
Alejandro.
your
You said
turn
we're
to
going to go
challenge.
with the.
So challenge Logan because Logan's already said he's familiar with them and they're all illogical. That's his
Okay.
position. So
Okay,
now,
so we're going right now, and he's saying we have problems with tangents, but then he starts like doing weird stuff. Like for example, I just thought, okay, so the cosmos, and he's like, well, what's the cosmos? And I'm like, okay, now we have to take time out to talk about the cosmos. Okay,
so
and then
what
he's
would
like,
you
oh,
rather him deal
okay,
with? Like, what do you want him to
well,
address?
we qualified that the cosmos is matter and
Exists,
energy.
right?
Okay, all right, so that's where we are right now. Okay, so do we know what the cosmos is, Logan?
According to Alejandro in this argument, it is matter and motion.
Okay, so it's according to Alejandro. Okay, so we don't know what the cosmos is. It's just my opinion. See, that's what his argument's gonna be. Oh, it's just your opinion.
Well,
It's just your
no, because
opinion.
no,
Everything is your
Alejandro,
opinion.
no,
Yeah, because you're a
Alejandro,
solipsist. That's it.
no,
I established
Alejandro.
that in the first game session that you're a
Because
solipsist and everything is my opinion.
if I use the word cosmos, I would use it differently than you. So that's why I
Okay.
wanted you to give your definition. So I'm working with your
Okay,
definition,
so
not mine.
all right, so we still don't have a definition of God, and we still don't have a definition of the cosmos. Great.
No, you have a definition of God. It's just a
I
very
do, but if you're gonna but if you don't but if you're gonna say that's your definition, I don't sign on to it.
it's a faulty definition, Alejandro.
Okay, so
And
this is
I've
the problem.
explained repeatedly why it's a faulty definition.
Mm,
If I say the giraffe is the tallest mammal, I actually don't know if it is. I think it is. We have a basis which to measure that. If I say the blue whale is the largest mammal, we have criteria on which to base that on. We have no criteria on greatest being. I don't even know what greatest being means. It's an incoherent term. Therefore, by your definition of God, he cannot exist because he's incoherent.
Okay, so we're again arguing definitions. We can't even get past definitions. Logan is just going to define things every
So
single
I'm
time.
not. I cannot
The only things
define
that
it
you're
Where do you
myself.
base? Go ahead and present where you base your definition on, Logan, and then we'll see if it's a valid definition.
About it. Well, once again, words have usages, blah, blah, blah.
Words have usages, and
Okay.
let's see how common it is.
Merriam-Webster, let's see here.
Okay, so he doesn't have one. He's just going to look one up. Great.
No, he's got
Great.
one.
You don't
He
know.
just
No. What he's doing is he's saying, I don't like your definition, but I don't have one.
great.
No.
Right? That's what he's doing it again. He's doing it again.
No.
He's like, I don't like your definition of the cosmos.
No.
Okay, well, what's yours? Oh, look one up.
No. Scott asked me,
Right.
and I have stated that you can be great in something, but you have to have a quality of which you are measuring. And
Right.
according to
You- you have-
Merriam-Webster,
if something can't be measured, it's not objective. I said that. That's your thing.
okay, good, you agreed. So
I said
here is greatness according to Merriam-Webster. The first thing they give. The quality or state of being great, as in size, skill, achievement, or power.
That's a circular definition.
It is. So is your definition of God. Okay.
I don't like your definition, so I'm going to look up a definition, and here's the definition, and it's circular.
So Merriam-Webster.
Come on, Logan.
Merriam-Webster.
Come on.
Merriam-Webster is a recognized authority on the usage of words. Yet you're somehow saying their definition is circular. It wasn't circular at all. It just says what greatness is.
Okay, Logan, you keep doing this. Okay, you keep saying, I disagree with you, and you're wrong. Okay, well, what is? I don't know.
The thing is, Alejandro,
what's right? I don't know.
You have been given 2.5 hours so far to present a properly formatted logical argument, and you have not. You presented some statements earlier that were not even properly formed. They weren't formatted at all. So they weren't even logical. That tells me you do not even understand logic, because you can't even present a false logical argument.
Okay, look, we can't even explore, no matter how I format it, we can't even explore it, because you're just going to challenge every definition, and you're going to redefine things to the point of meaninglessness. And
I redefined. That was Merriam-Webster. That was Merriam-Webster.
Yeah, because you didn't know. You didn't have a definition. You just look one up.
No, I did.
It's like,
no, I did. You don't accept my definition, and you don't really have a definition at all beyond a.
Well, you don't like my definition, so you decide you're going to look up one, and you said, and the definition you gave me is circular. That's how this works.
Circular. Okay.
What?
Okay. Greatness is some abstract concept in Alejandro's head that is somehow coherent. Objective. But he can't demonstrate how it's objective. He can't give a quality of God. And when any quality he gives, God can choose not to have that quality. So according to the classical definition of God, God is and always will be the same. However, Alejandro says he could change. If he could change, that means he could not have that quality and therefore not be God.
No. You're arguing that, see, the thing is, you're coming at this from a deterministic perspective, and I clarified this earlier. You're trying to argue that if you do, you either can and does are the same. So if I don't drive a car, that means I can't drive a car. That's what you're trying to do. And because I don't drive a car, it means I'm less than I could be. Something weird like that. Yeah, God could do whatever he wants. He's God. However, he chooses to be rational.
Can you just
choice
once again
free will?
From my standpoint, this will be your final opportunity. I don't know when Scott wants to get to questions from the audience or statements from the audience. We have about less than a half hour. Present a logical argument.
Well, if we don't have anything to say,
he may not be receiving us right now. Are you receiving us, Alejandro?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, he cut out.
I couldn't tell. I thought he was ignoring me.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
But yeah, I didn't know when you wanted to get the comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we come to a place somewhere we can conclude, but I think we're hamstrung on greatness as whether it's objective or subjective. It's like if you can't agree on the definitions, then it's going to be hard to move forward. And it doesn't make a lot of sense for anyone to accept a definition they don't truly accept.
Correct.
So
all
right.
Can you hear us, Alejandro? He may not be able to hear us.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So we can either we can continue for maybe another 5 minutes, or we can get into the questions from the audience if you'd like.
Well, I wanted to address Drunken here. A couple of people says, "No, I'm trying to get to the truth," and Logan keeps
Well, I was
going
just
all over the
mentioning
place.
the yeah, I was mentioning to Logan that it seems like what the issue here is we can't get past the definition of, for example, greatness, whether it means objective or subjective. If Logan just accepts your word that your definition of greatness, then he would be dishonest, and vice versa. Like you can't just accept that greatness is subjective, because that's not how you are trying to formulate your argument. So we're kind of hamstrung at this point.
Yeah, because a lot of these things I think are pretty obvious, but not to Logan.
Well, let's let the audience decide. We do have a few questions
Sure.
in the chat here. One of them, it comes from MA, um, asking Alejandro, what evidence can your God or any God not give because of its nature?
What could it not give? Okay, well, here's the thing. Okay, well, God exists transcendently. Okay, and that's something that's very hard for some people to give. So unless you want to talk to the Christians, God is not corporeal. God is not. It's kind of like saying, okay, do I have evidence? Does the number one exist? Well, we've seen, one brick, two bricks, one phone, two phones. We've seen things that represent, but the number one itself is abstract. Same thing with pi. Okay, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its radius. Okay, now, are you ever going to see pi? 3.14 on. No. So
Yeah, it's conceptual.
yeah. So God couldn't be conceptual unless you're a Christian. Good for them.
Hmm. All right, so let me hide that. Let's see if we have any more questions.
Well, one of the guys I did notice said that cosmos always existed, and I just wanted to say right off the bat that's pantheism. I was going to lead up there. I didn't want to answer his question, but since he asked it, he's probably paying attention. Yeah, you can argue the cosmos always existed. That's pantheism.
Hmm.
That's not atheism. That's pantheism.
All right. I see a lot of statements. I don't see any questions. Let me see if I can go up. I don't know what's um, yeah, it's just a lot of statements and comments, but not really questions. I don't know
Mhm.
if they wanted those public, but let's see. Here goes one from Psy Prodigy Alejandro. Was Immanuel Kant autistic?
Now, I believe this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is in reference to the synthetic analytic distinction. And what I'm saying is that everyone I know, well, the one person I know who's really into it, which is Alex Gibb, that looks really autistic. So he might not have been autistic himself, but the philosophy of that distinction, that's very much a something I see in autistic atheism, where there's a real distinction between concrete and not concrete. And this is also something that coincides with Piaget's theories of development, where I see a lot of atheist people where they're stuck at the concrete operational stage of development and never progress past that. Or sometimes they regress backwards though. They'll start off a conversation knowing things, and then they'll just suddenly not know things as a way to get out of a conclusion, which is one of the things that we see. Cyrus the Great,
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right. Cyrus the Great wanted to take over the world for the forces of good. What is this goodness based on? His opinion? If he didn't approve, would it be labeled as evil and wiped out via violence?
Okay, so this is one of those very different Zoroastrian versus Abrahamic distinctions. Uh, Good is what works. Okay. And this is one of the things that I commend most modern Christians for doing. You see, modern Christians have spent 2,000 years going for what works, and they say, okay, then this is what Jesus really meant. Okay, so for example, we have socialist Jesus and capitalist Jesus.
Hmm.
So modern Christians have looked around and says, well, socialism causes mass starvation and tens of millions of people dying, so we can be really sure that Jesus was not a socialist. Now you do have people that continue to argue that Jesus was socialist, but these are actually maltheists, and this is something that we can get into in for future game sessions. But yeah, so what is the force of the good? Yeah, what works?
Okay,
You
gotcha.
know.
All right, cool. I've got another question from Duncan Downham. Did Alejandro ever coherently define God? Maximally great doesn't count or present as an argument.
Well, yeah, I did. It's just that we're getting bogged down in definitions. Okay.
Oh,
Logan is going to dispute every conceivable definition that I can give him, and well, unfortunately, that renders everything else he says kind of worthless.
so
But I
are you
did,
saying
greatest creator of the cosmos was another one we played with.
you know I was going to dispute any definition you give?
Yeah, that's your strategy.
So you're omniscient?
No, I
Mm,
just know you.
Okay.
And if
Um,
you can't tell the difference between me knowing you and you suddenly knowing every possible argument for the existence of God that ever was, is, or could be, if you can't tell the difference, thank you for
okay.
helping out my
Um,
case.
my own answer to Duncan would be no, he never coherently defined God, and he indeed admitted that God can be incoherent and therefore he doesn't exist.
No, I didn't
And
say God could be incoherent. You
he
tried to say what God could do is what
did
he
I interrupt any of
is.
your answers? Did I interrupt any of your answers? No. You've answered like two
You didn't
questions. I
give
didn't
any.
say a word.
You didn't.
Well, but I didn't interrupt you.
yeah,
I'm
let
just
Logan
saying.
go ahead and finish his answer. Go ahead.
So anyway, to Duncan, to be charitable, Alejandro presented arguments. They're just bad. And if they're bad, they're not logical. And that is the purpose of this discussion.
Mm,
That's my response.
okay. And here's another question. Psy Prodigy asks, is eternally torturing people for a God failing to prove itself great an infinite punishment for a finite sin?
Okay, you're being Christian. Great. Um, eternally torturing people for failing to prove itself great. Well, here's the thing. Again, I am works based. Uh, and the problem is that people. I can get into this. Okay, so in Zoroastrianism, you're either doing good or evil. You're either serving God, you're either serving the Spentamon you embody, you're being rational, you're promoting good, or you're basically enslaved yourself to the Spentamon. And being a slave sucks. Okay, so you are torturing yourself. And this is actually one of the big distinctions. This is actually one of the bones I have with Christianity, is this strange idea that being sinful is tempting, or, it's like, oh, I'm so tempted by sin. And it's like, no, it sucks. You don't want to spend your life as an alcoholic. You don't want to spend your life living on the streets. You don't want to spend your life doing any of these things which are not healthy.
Hmm.
You want to be healthy, and God is ultimately rational. So
Gotcha. And MA asks, Alejandro, evil works too. How does evil not work?
sucks. I wouldn't trade places with anyone who is evil. Okay, so when it says evil works, I mean, you can rob a bank, you know, but that's when you get hell. Okay, so let's say you rob a bank, and let's say you get away with it, and let's say you live happily ever after on the money, and you've made all those people suffer. That's when you have to deal with it at the Chinbot Bridge.
Mm.
You
So
could
it's
fall into that
justice in
worst
the
existence.
afterlife.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I was hoping to get into in this game session, but I guess we'll have to put off to the next one.
Okay. All right.
Is what?
So,
Sorry.
oh,
Sorry.
go
What was
right
it?
ahead.
What were you hoping to get to, Alejandro? Just
I'm
so I
going
can
to get
remember
into
it.
that. No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I am not being Christian. That is your argument. Did you forget Pascal's wager? Okay. Pascal's wager, like I've explained several times, is what we have. We're in a total vacuum, like we are right now, officially. Okay. Right now, we are in this complete and total vacuum where God might exist, God might not exist. We don't know. We don't have a good definition of God. We're just in the ethers here. We're just barely starting out. And that's Pascal's wager. Okay, once you start saying, well, maybe God likes sinners, or, maybe God likes roasting babies. Okay, maybe that's something God likes. Okay, now we're actually getting into theology. Okay, but when a total vacuum, it's better be safe than sorry. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay. And so MA is asking, is it might makes right then? Is God
Maltheism.
being the standard? Okay.
That is Maltheism.
Can you is are you saying mouth or
No,
MALF?
Maltheism. God is evil. Devotion to the Anger Manu.
Ah, the
So now, unless you want to say like might is like the best arguments or the most pragmatic things, because yeah, then you do have that. So for example, civilization A, civilization B. Civilization A is righteous, successful, and everything, and civilization B, hasn't figured out indoor plumbing, so they're obviously not mighty.
can
Sorry.
you spell that?
Maltheism,
Yeah.
MAL theism.
Oh, I'm hearing a PH or an F in there. Okay. Maltheism. There we go. Okay. Go on. Carry on. Ah, there it is.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions from the audience. So if you want, we can go ahead and do a because I want to respect Alejandro's time here. It's running
Well, we
kind
got
of
10 minutes or
slim.
so.
Got 10 minutes. So if you want, you can go ahead and give a closing remark, you guys, or well, we may have one more question. Let me make sure. Okay, here it is.
Okay, so MA, yeah, that's Zoroastrianism. Okay, so Zoroastrianism takes that into account when you are trying to cross the Chinvet Bridge, when you're trying to go from this life to the next life. You know, ultimately the truth is on how stable that passage is. Okay, so if you have all the factors like, yes, I had to do this for the greater good, like, if I didn't steal a loaf of bread, the world would end. Yeah, your path is going to be more stable than someone who stole the loaf of bread because I'm an asshole and I like stealing bread.
Okay, so
That's
it's
part of
relative to
cosmic.
that.
Yeah, it's ultimately relative, according to the ultimate perfect standards, but it is, all those factors are considered, and I think there's an element of that in Christianity, at least Catholicism, where God ultimately judges you, you know, ultimately, finally judges you, and God's wisdom is infinite, and God being all perfect will make the right decision. So,
Okay. All right. So, did anybody want to start with their closing before we shuffle off?
okay, so my closing is real simple: is that Logan has resisted every definition of God. He has proven himself to be solipsistic, irrational. He knows I'm wrong, but he doesn't know what the right answer is. And then when he gives the right answer, it's a circular definition. So, yeah, part of my argument here is that we're dealing with Logan the solipsist, and you know, every time he says something, I'm just going to show that he's being solipsistic about it. Logan, go for it. All you.
Okay, it has repeatedly been demonstrated that Alejandro does not know what solipsism is. He accuses me of choosing terms and reinterpreting terms myself, and I generally just try to go with the most common usages. We do know sometimes there are differences between how the way philosophy or science uses certain terms, so we do have to be careful with that. Someone earlier, what did they say? They said that it was some term we used, and they said, well, this is this. Well, that is the common thing, but in philosophy, it was actually what Alejandro was saying. So, yeah, I'm a solipsist. Reading the chat. So yes, you do need to actually use terms closer to how they are used properly, considering the context, either colloquially or according to the field in which they are done. I don't think you are using it. I don't think you're using solipsism philosophically, as it's defined philosophically. We have to have either clarify our terms, or you have to use them as they are commonly used within the things. Alejandro, I gave him whatever amount of time he needed. He said 5 minutes. He didn't even take 5 minutes. I did not interrupt him the entire time, and he stated a bunch of claims and statements, and we can define all kinds of things that do not exist. And even if I said Gandalf was the greatest wizard, I would still have to mean, well, what qualities does a wizard have that makes them the greatest? And Alejandro could not even do that for God. He thinks greatness in itself, instead of modifying a term that we can objectively define, he thinks is just a term he can use without giving its proper context as an adjective that modifies a noun of which we already know. He doesn't use facts. He doesn't use logic. And therefore he does not use reasoning. He has not presented a single fact. And to use logic, you have to have facts.
All right. Well,
All right, well, we've got 5 minutes, so
okay. 5 minutes. Do you want to address anything Logan just said?
well, we can always go for round 3. I'm happy for a third game session. You know.
Yeah, it's
Okay, Alejandro, I'll tell you, I will commit to. I will go double check online. I will just search classical definition of God, classical God, and we will go with that. We will not go with any more of the Zoro God or the Christian God. We will just, although I think the classical definition is pretty much in line with Western thought, which is Christianity, but we will go with that. We will not fool around with any of these other witch gods.
Is this from the same source that gives a circular definition?
I tell you what, Alejandro, you find a not too long, but a source online which you can link to me of what you mean when you say a classical definition of God. I don't want Alejandro's statement. I want you to accept a statement.
3 so far. 3 so far.
Okay, those are the classical definitions of God. I will go back and
Maximally great.
those. Okay.
That than which nothing greater can be conceived, creator of the cosmos. Those are 3 classic definitions of God.
Okay, we will go with those.
Okay. What's wrong with the what is illogical? Let's pick one, Logan, and let's see how they're illogical.
Well, I think we have beaten both of them. Depend on great. Someone said earlier that a God that does not allow people to go to hell is a greater God than one that doesn't, or one that does. So that right there displays how greatness is an interpretive concept. So the first 2 deal with greatness, and therefore there's no logic as presented so far behind them. They're just not truly defining what great is. Perhaps he could go online and find a usage of great that he means, because I'm not certainly understanding it. So the second one is God is the creator of the cosmos. That's an assertion. That's not a logical argument.
Okay.
I mean, you just don't assert things. It's just I've explained how logic works, Alejandro, and I
Okay,
think you
so
know how
what is the
logic works.
difference between a assertion and a definition?
A definition is how a word is used. Words can mean multiple things. I forgot this one word that has the most meanings.
So we are asserting triangles have three sides. We're
No,
asserting that.
no.
And we are
Set.
asserting squares have four sides. We're just going to assert that.
According to the OED, set has 430 meanings. I don't know if any of them contradict each other. So that would be a definition. And an assertion is you're not really defining God when you say God created the universe. You're making an assertion of what he has done without any facts to back it up.
We're going to assert that straight
To
lines.
be logical, you have to have facts. Assertions are not facts.
We're gonna assert that circles are a circle. We're gonna just assert that.
I didn't say that.
That's what you're doing.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to agree, try to not to tell each other what they're doing.
Look, you don't have to tell me what you're doing. I am for the audience translating what you're doing. Okay, so it's kind of one of these things where you're like, there's like, okay, the light is on or off, and you're like, I don't believe it's on, and then you're like, well, I didn't say that. You're like, okay, well, she's pregnant or she's not pregnant. I don't believe she's pregnant. Okay, so you're saying she's not pregnant. That's not what I said. What you do. So, at any rate, we are at the hour and 30-minute mark, and Winery's going to close in a half hour. And I promised them I'd buy a flight of wine as a thank you for using their property. So I have to get onto that. It's great. If you guys want to do an after party, let's see. Next week might not be so good because I'm probably gonna be in Vegas. That's like the. Is that April? Are we in April?
Not
week?
quite. Yeah, but next week, yeah.
Next
First
Sunday's
Saturday,
April.
I think.
Yeah, next Saturday. So next weekend, no good for me because I'm gonna be in Vegas.
Okay, we'll play it by ear, man.
I can squeeze out an hour on Sunday because I love you guys.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not gonna. Sorry, vacation. I'm not gonna spend 2 hours online.
Right. Understood.
So at any rate, go learn what solipsism is. Great. Okay. Definition of shapes are analytic. Okay. Wow.
And let me know what kind of tree that is if you know.
All right. So, all right, you guys are awesome. Have some fun. But like I said, I have to thank the winery for letting me use their wonderful facility here. And you guys have a great week. God bless. I'm out.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. We'll see you next time, bro. All right. So if anybody wants to jump in and join the discussion, and we can kind of talk about the give your opinion on the debate, ask Logan questions, ask me questions. If you want to do that, I'll keep it open here for a minute, see if anybody responds. I did have someone who wanted to jump in, but we'll see if he's going to jump in and join us. But what'd you think, Logan?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is it my fault that I can't? I mean, am I being too pedantic with this greatness thing?
It depends on, how you want to argue stuff. Like, if you just want to move, like for me, part of my issue is I kind of grant too much. I'd rather grant too much for people. So I just go along with whatever their definitions are, even if they don't make sense or whatever. And then I just try to find another angle to attack it. Like if we don't want to attack the definition, can I find another route just to kind of move the convo along? Because it's going to get hamstringed at the definition. But that's just me. And it depends on, where you're really trying, what your goals are with the debate. You know what I mean?
Well, my goal is ultimately believe true things.
Yeah. And see, like for example, if he says, well, God is the greatest thing and greatness is objective, so God is objective and he's objectively the greatest thing. Yeah, you could argue the definition, but then it hamstrings the whole thing because he's not going to give in. Maybe there's another way to approach that question. What makes God the greatest thing? Or, I don't know. There's just, how do you know he's the greatest thing?
Right.
There's like different ways you can go at the question or the statement rather. But yeah, I mean that's the challenge I think between you guys is that Alejandro, he's stuck on his definitions. He didn't budge about greatness. He didn't judge about cosmos. He didn't budge about solipsism. It's like if someone's not going to agree with you on your usage of words, that it's going to be really hard to move forward, and it's just a waste of time,
I guess.
and he just didn't want to. He just didn't want to be charitable. That's the other thing. There's a principle of being charitable, because you don't want to straw man somebody's position. You don't want to paint out their weakest version of their argument and attack that. No, you want to steel man their strongest argument and deal with the strongest argument. That way it puts the whole argument to rest in either case, But it seems like when people start going back and forth on that, it's like they're trying to avoid that work, and that's what, in my opinion, that's what Alejandro does, is he doesn't act in good faith, with charity on some of
Yeah.
those things. That's just
I mean,
my opinion and my observation. I might be totally wrong, but that's the way I
Oh no,
understand it.
I agree. I just think he makes too much of this is because you're an atheist, but Gonalo of Marmentier, he was a monk and a contemporary of St. Anselm, who was one of the people that formalized this originally. And he criticized it essentially on the same grounds I do, that Anselm was trying to define things in existence. Gonalo, being a monk, fully believed that God existed. He's just saying, look, this is a poor argument. And I guess maybe I should have borrowed Gonalo's argument for a greatest island.
Yeah, with someone like him, when it's difficult like that, sometimes I just grant them too much. Like, just give them whatever they want. Like, if you want to say I'm a solipsist, fine. I'm a solipsist. Under your definition, I'm a solipsist. Okay, now what?
Sure. Yeah,
Now,
sure.
how does that make your argument better? How does asking me anything prove your argument? You're the one making the claim that there are logical arguments for God. Me being a solipsist, how does that make your claim true?
Well,
Even if I was wrong. Yeah, you did say that, but it's like you can repeat that to him over and over and over, and it just seems like it's not one of those principles he's willing to grant you. So I just say, just give him anything he wants. To argue with someone like him, just give him whatever he wants, and just attack the question or the argument differently, I guess. But that's just me. Otherwise, you're just going to be going back and forth over words, essentially. But yeah, that's why it's not a lot of fun in those kind of debates. I was hoping, what I was really hoping with today's debate was that we were going to all agree on a definition and then build on it regardless. That's why I kind of like wanted to take time out to say, and make it clear to Alejandro, look, this is an internal critique. He's doing an outsider test of faith in order to come to an agreement about a word. Can you understand how that relates? It's like you can't make people understand what they just don't understand it. It's like for him, when you do an outsider test of faith, it's almost like what you're doing is you're saying that Christianity is therefore true, or Hinduism must therefore be true. If you use that as the example, and he's not getting the point. It's like, that's not the point. I could pick any arbitrary religion or God. That's not the point. The point that I'm trying to make is that what does your description of God entail? Because you're just saying God. Well, okay, well, I understand God as Jesus, according to some people.
Yep.
What are we talking about? You have to talk about, if it's up to you, then you wouldn't be charitable. You could easily say, okay, well, I define that thing that is totally impossible to exist. Now what?
Yeah.
And see, he'd have been like, well, you can't define God that. Then he's going to do the thing that he's blaming you of doing, of not accepting his definition. So that's the way I was thinking of playing that part. Like when he said, well, you're the one that needs to define God, not me. I've been like, okay, God is that thing that cannot logically exist under any circumstances. That's how I define God. Now your turn. And
Yep.
he would have been like, you can't do that. That's cheating. The same thing he's accusing you of.
Right.
So that's the way I would play with people like that. But
So I guess no one's coming in.
I guess not, man. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down if no one's gonna jump in. But yeah, I mean, it was still fun. I enjoyed spending time and talking about it. Anyways, interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to get a Christian and see if how they would
have a different approach.
I mean, I know how
yeah.
some would present it, but I mean, would
Mhm.
they give this much kickback on everything I bring up?
Right. So, there's people in our group, Patrick Yarnell. I don't think he's willing to come on. He's kind of likes to do the whole word salad thing on the keyboard. He doesn't want to risk doing it live. Yeah, that's right, Pat. That's what I said.
Oh, is
Be
he
a
here?
man. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh.
But Victor, he wants to debate. Would you like to debate Victor on the 31st?
Oh my gosh. In some
He
ways,
said
Victor is.
he wants to debate somebody on the 30th. He said it could be about evolution, could be about anything.
Evolution isn't my specialty.
Right. Or maybe the resurrection, or think about it, man. Maybe we can have some more content next weekend and people can check that out. I think because I've debated Victor live. He won't give you that kickback like that. He just kind of goes along with what you present. So yeah, keep that in mind. And we'll see if we can't do this again next week.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna let you go, man. I don't think anybody's gonna jump in backstage with us. So
All right. I hope people enjoyed it.
yeah. Yeah.
Ah, the heck.
Y'all stay tuned, man. Maybe next week we'll have another debate. So anyways, all you guys have yeah, Alex Gibb is asking, is it Victor? Yes. Victor asked, he actually asked me last week. It's like, I want to debate on your channel with somebody, an atheist. Give me an atheist, even a Muslim, he said. So anyways,
I would love to see Alejandro debate a Muslim.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be interesting. I'd like to see Victor too. I mean,
I think I'll try to find one.
Yeah.
I would also, awesome. I think I'll contact him. I've spoken with the guy from the Fire Temple. I think it's in Cincinnati or maybe Indy. But, Alejandro has this whole thing that atheists are evil. And this guy's like, no. And I'd really love to see if I can get him and Alejandro on the same show. I have to ask him if he would be willing to discuss our atheist evil and see if he would get on here and challenge Alejandro, a Zoroastrian against someone who claims to be a Zoroastrian.
Exactly. That'd be great. All right, man. I will check you guys out next time, though. Y'all be good. Later.